back to the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullrank, and each week we cover everything in the SEO industry, whether it's articles, reports, data, tools, Twitter threads, communities, you name it, we got it. Everything to keep you up to date with SEO. And if you are into this, please subscribe to the channel, give me a like, send me a comment, and share on the socials. You know I appreciate it. This week, so we got some fallout from the Google May Core 2022 update. We've got a big controversy around author rank. I mean, it's an old conversation, but it's new again. And we've got 100 really dumb mistakes you don't want to make in SEO. So much good stuff. Let's dive in. So when it comes to the Google Search Central blog, there was an update all around authors and how to mark up your authors. They had some best practices that they covered just to pay attention to if you want to make sure that you get those rich enhancements that include any sort of author details. So first off, make sure you include all authors in the markup, not just one. So if there are multiple authors, include them all. Specify multiple authors when it is applicable. Use the additional fields that are available to you. Only specify the author's name in the author.name property and use the appropriate author type. So just some tips when it comes to structured data for authors in like an article or a blog type of piece of content. You'll want to use that to take advantage of the enhancements. Mordy Oberstein of Wix did a great guest post on Semrush where he was looking at the data and compared the May 2022 core update to past updates, for instance, in November, looking specifically at volatility because it's hard to determine who was impacted so early on. It takes a few weeks for it to roll out, and there can be tremors in updates, and then over time you could see more definitive patterns. That said, Mordy did find that the volatility of the May update was not as severe as what we saw in November. He did look a little into industries, with real estate being the biggest mover and shaker, but it's really interesting to see, you know, how significant these updates are, especially when they're a core update and there's no like definitive, like just your money, your life updates, or, you know, just product review related enhancement updates. So we'll continue to keep our eyes on this. There are plenty of other articles that are coming out that are analyzing what this means. So there was an interesting rumor that the SEO community picked up on via Robert Scoble, who is a technologist and journalist who's been writing about, you know, Apple and AR and all this really fascinating stuff. So he dropped with Apple's upcoming conference that they were going to announce that they are going to debut their search engine. Now, this has been rumored for a long time. Apple already has Spotlight, they already have Siri, and they already have Apple Maps as kind of existing search engines. Are they going to come out with a major Google competitor? And it brings up some really interesting philosophical issues and financial implications for SEO. For instance, did you know that Google actually pays Apple like 10, 15, 18 billion dollars per year to not build a search engine? This is like one of those like unsaid, unwritten rules that behind closed doors actually exists. Mac 9 to 5 has covered it extensively in the past. And so if Apple decides that they can kind of get into the advertising game through a massive search engine and maybe make more revenue than they're earning passively from Google every year, they might do that. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do it. A lot of people think that it's a really bad idea for Google. Adding more competition is always probably a good thing, but Apple is very much a closed ecosystem for Apple users. So it's hard to know what that would even look like, but something to pay attention to see if they're going to announce it next week. What do you think? What are the implications of Apple creating a search engine? Let me know in the comments. When it comes to the world of Twitter, and speaking of the May 2022 core update, Gianna Brachetti-Truskawa put together this awesome curated list of what to do in the event of an update. They found great stuff from Aleda Solis, Dr. Marie Haynes related to EAT, even a German one from Johannes Buss of Systrix. I hope I pronounced your name right. It's actually in German, so you got to translate that to get to all the juiciness of it. But thank you so much to Gianna for putting that together. They find the greatest stuff. They're a great follow on Twitter, knows their SEO inside and out, so check it out. In another great Semrush Twitter thread, expert Jolle Lahr-Eigen broke down when it comes to the HTTP header. So the difference between the HTML header and the HTML head. She went through different ways to identify that, like to use Chrome dev tools to actually look at the head and the resources that are provided via the network tab, and then the different types of things that you can put in there as an SEO, whether you're putting some sneaky comments in there for other SEOs to find, or actual valuable stuff like marking it with an E tag, actual entity. Really cool thread there with some insights, a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So if you're into technical SEO, check out what Joel laid out there. And I hope I pronounced your name, Jolie. Appreciate it. Okay, more of a content thing, but tied to SEO. Erica Schneider had this really awesome thread all about different principles on how to improve your writing. She did have one part that spoke specifically to SEO. She said, if writing for SEO, answer intent right away. The BLUF framework works well here. So that's like bottom line up front. Your H2, what is X? First line, the answer. Don't mess about. Now, if you're a writer, copywriter, writing for SEO on page, all of her tips are awesome. And a big shout out to Masuma for pointing her out to me, this Twitter thread, when I was asking. I'm always asking what to include the SEO weekly. And this was outside my sphere. So it was great to meet Erica and to see all of her great writing tips. So check out the rest of that thread. A lot of great principles. Okay, so epic debate this week. All started with Craig Tugber did another one of his kind of massive deep dives, like a theoretical and yet researched thesis all about Google's author rank. So he looked at Google patents. He identified different ways in which Google was trying to pull from, like, comments that they made in public, pull attributes of an author and, identifiers and how they can evaluate an author and what that might mean for EAT and rankings and author as an entity. It's fascinating stuff. I think that, when we talk about EAT and we talk about ideas around expertise, it would make sense that Google would care about the expertise of an author, especially for something like your money, your life types of articles. So in the healthcare industry or in the financial industry, things that impact us, it needs to be right. Over the last few years, Google, like the Medic update, Google's trying to make sure that this information is reliable. That said, there is a vocal group of SEOs who historically say that Google has said, no, we don't use author rank. We do not use author rank as a ranking factor. Specifically, Mark Traphagen of seoClarity and Christine Schlesinger said that's not a real thing. Mark has done a lot of research in Google+, and Christine has written many articles about it, basically saying that, we trust Google. It almost doesn't make sense for them to use author rank because it's so complicated, and it's also something that you could, in theory, easily game with enough resources put to it. Christine actually maps out this whole argument around fake science and how there's $1 billion industry of getting your academics published in academic journals, and how that's something that people do. Hooray actually addresses the idea of AI content and AI writers. It's really fascinating. It's very academic, his whole article. I'm curious where you stand on the debate. While they might not definitively use authors as a ranking factor, I do think it makes sense that Google would want to surface who are reliable experts. How do you identify what that is? And we know that entities are a real thing, and author entities are very much a real thing. Do you think an author should, could, or is included in how well a site ranks? A lot of it ties to EAT. Make up your mind for yourself, read the article. Love to hear what you think there. Olga Zarechna has, oh man, she's been crushing it. So she looked at her last 100 SEO audits for various clients, and she pulled out 100 mistakes that people make, and how to fix it and how to avoid it. And it's such a great kind of like, comprehensive article, and she covers everything from like accidentally using lorem ipsum in your copy to blocking certain pages. I think my favorite is using AI generated images of authors for the author's the theme of the week, obviously, but the idea that someone would create like a fake image author for a written article, like I understand there are ghostwriters, and it doesn't feel like the most awful thing, but she said, don't do it. And she lists out all of these other mistakes that people make that hurt their rankings. So check out the article from Olga. So good, so good. Okay, so everyone knows how Moz has this amazing SEO beginner's guide, like one of the definitive documents all about getting started with SEO that's available for free on the web. Well, they just put out the next level, the next step, the professional's guide to SEO, another free resource that dives into much more advanced strategy, advanced SEO, more kind of comprehensive answers around technical SEO and even working in SEO. I can't wait to dive into it. I've started to skim it a little bit, but Moz, they're so good at gathering subject matter experts and covering everything that's really been documented, accurate, tested in the world of SEO. Respect the hell out of their editorial staff. So you know this guide is going to be useful, and it's free. It's not, you don't even have to give an email to download it. So check out Moz's work there. Awesome resource. And Bright Local, I always love talking local SEO. I say this every once in a while, but Melissa Pop did a guest article. She works over at Rickety Roo, and she wrote all about EAT and local content. I think if you are, whether you're a small business or a national franchise, coming up with local content can be challenging beyond just your actual location pages. And so she provides a lot of tips in how you can include kind of EAT strategies, how you can include expertise, like improve your articles with local experts, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness using a variety of tools, whether that's like looking at your own Google Search Console, asking clients most pressing issues, or asking them what their problems are of your customers to include in your content, generate ideas. You can also use Google Trends. You could use People Also Asks in the queries you're trying to rank for, as well as Reddit, find niche Reddits. Great article by Melissa. If you're in local, it's a great kind of guide to start thinking about how you can generate local content to rank for more things in your specific geographic proximity. Over at SEO Testing, Sunny Matharu put together like a awesome introduction to Google Search Console. You'd be surprised how many people have never really played around with this free tool or haven't even set it up. It's maybe the most valuable free SEO tool directly from Google that you can use. So what Sunny does in this article is he shows you, how to set it up, how to use it to diagnose issues, like kind of go through the errors, as well as like even in the advanced search using like regex techniques to identify specific pages with issues and how you can resolve them. So I thought this was a great intro guide if you've never really played around with Google Search Console, looked at the different metrics it provides, whether it's like clicks and impressions and click-through rate percentage, and even ranking, because there are a lot of misunderstood aspects about what Google Search Console where it's sampling those metrics from. So great work there from Sunny. And Patrick Stocks. Oh, Patrick Stocks. I love everything you put out on technical SEO, sir. But this one was all about canonicals. Like, what are they? How do they work? How can you optimize for them? Canonicals are basically, they're a range of different signals that tell Google what is the original source page that should have the most SEO value out of all the potential variations of it. Because sometimes, you'll have duplicate pages that have a different URL, but there's only one canonical that Google considers as like the real deal. So naturally you can use that via internal HTML and like saying rel equal canonical, but there's so many other ways that Patrick breaks down and how to diagnose what is the canonical and common mistakes made with it. Another great post on the Ahrefs blog by Patrick. If you have any questions about what canonicals are, this is the article for you. And in the world of tools and features, well, seoClarity, another day, another acquisition for SEO. So Hamlet Batista's Rank Sense, which is, Hamlet passed away more than a year ago now, suddenly during COVID, and he was such a legend in the world of SEO and Python. He tried to mentor and educate and evangelize the value of Python in SEO. He was the nicest guy in the world, and his agency and his software, RankSense, many other organizations had actually taken a lot of concepts when it came to Edge SEO and used it in their own software. Well, finally, a great day for his family and his legacy. It got purchased by seoClarity. In fact, the co-founder and chief architect of seoClarity, Mitul Gandhi, said, Hamlet's contributions to the advancement of SEO amplified the greatest need in our industry, a faster way to test and execute complex SEO projects. We are honored to continue Hamlet's pioneering work and carry on his legacy in this way. A lot of complicated SEO A/B testing is done on the edge via Hamlet's proprietary kind of rank sense software. So huge win for seoClarity, huge win for Hamlet and the world of Python SEO and just complicated SEO software. So fills my heart. It's good stuff. Also, so Dixon Jones put out for his InLinks tool has a brand new feature which sounds really, really cool. It's called the new content optimization editor. And what it does is it allows you to take context, your competitors and verbs, and take all of this and create a content plan to guide you on semantically relevant topical keyword clusters that you want to, rank for and write for. So it's actually the keywords that actually matter based on what you're writing. It seems very complicated in terms of what it's able to do, but very simple with the output and giving you these actionable ways to do keyword research that'll save you a ton of time. So InLinks is the tool. It'll be cool to kind of play around with that, but congrats to Dixon and the team there for releasing this massive feature. And finally, if you missed it last week, Kyle and I did our content rebalancing framework webinar for iPullrank. It was so much fun. We enjoyed talking all about how you can kind of redistribute the link equity of your topic clusters. Basically the idea of going through your old content, updating it, merging it, pruning it, getting rid of some of it and making it better so that the link value is distributed. You don't, lose a lot of rankings due to old orphan blog posts or that are pulling down the whole ship, if you will. If you want to check it, the replay is available to watch. All of this information is in the description notes of the SEO Weekly blog post as well as the YouTube video. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Another great week in the world of SEO, controversies, it depends advice and, good stuff. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end here. As I mentioned, if you didn't at the beginning, if you haven't before, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a like, share on the social media channels, hit me up, tag me. I appreciate you. I appreciate building this community and this momentum. Love SEO. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullrank, and y'all have a great week. I will catch you next Monday.